We probably have 1,000 days left of humanity as we know it, or society as we know it. There's probably 3 years of society as we once knew it. And then as we go further and further past the next 1,000 days, we're living in a post-AI revolution world. Rolling.
Is it Daniel or Dan?
Either.
All right, Dan.
Danny seems a bit weird. My grandma used to call me Danny.
Danny. That's the old producer of the show. It's called Danny. He's off doing his own thing. He's a British guy. He lives in Australia now.
There you go.
He's in, where is he, Brisbane or somewhere?
Beautiful one day, perfect the next.
Look, I've been out to Australia the last 2 years. We do a little event there. And I think the thing about Australia, they're doing communism right. They've got the utopia. You got the sunshine and the beach.
Yeah.
The good weather, good life.
You got something the size of all of Europe with 35 million people.
Yeah. Whereas we've got the shitty version of communism where everything's shit.
Yeah. Miserable. Yeah, especially this time of year.
Well, look, it's great to talk to you. I've been following you on Twitter for a little while now. I think what you've done really well is I think you've got stuff that appeals to me and stuff that appeals to my son, in that you've got all this great business advice for young entrepreneurs where I think you're giving them the reality, the stuff they probably should be telling them at school. And then you've got all the miserable UK bullshit, which I totally agree with, where I'm like, yes, I understand. So you've been here 16 years?
19 now.
19, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I am a mix of the positive and the negative. Like, there's part of me that thinks that this is the greatest time in history to be alive, and that this is an amazing time to be building and growing businesses and creating wealth. And then there's part of me that grumbles that systems aren't working for us, that we could unleash a lot more. And it's not because I'm complaining about the UK government or anything in particular. It's because I see the possibility. It's like I see what's possible, and I see this moment that's here, and all the complaints are like really from a space of, hey, we could be great. We could be doing really, really well. I'm not sitting there moaning saying, oh, there's nothing, there's no hope. I'm actually saying, let's get the handcuffs off. Let's get the shackles off. Let's go for it, right? Let's actually unleash some value here.
I completely agree. Well, I agree in that I am definitely moaning.
Yeah.
I'm giving Keir Starmer, and Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner, I'm giving them a hard time. They probably don't know who I am or give a shit, but I am giving them a hard time because I think they're absolutely useless. I think the previous Conservatives Party was pretty useless as well.
Totally, which is why they got voted out.
Yeah.
We chose to punish them by punishing them ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that comes down to the stupidity of politics, but I am an optimist, and I'm an entrepreneur. So I just get on with it. I didn't vote in the last 2 elections, and some people get upset by that. And I'm like, it's a waste of my time. It doesn't make a difference in my life. I just get on with it and build businesses.
I don't have a political team. I'm not left. I'm not conservative or Labour or any particular party in particular. I'm pro-entrepreneur.
Yes.
All I am is I'd vote for any party that I thought had the best policies that would benefit entrepreneurs, because I think entrepreneurship is the best game in town. It's the thing that does the most, positivity for the economy and for individuals as well. So I'm personally, I'm not political. I just vote in alignment with what I think is best for entrepreneurship.
Well, I'm similar. I'd say I think more just generally about the economy.
Yeah.
So that obviously supporting entrepreneurs and supporting businesses, but also just generally having sensible economic policies. I'm a big fan of smaller government.
Yeah, small government, leave most things let the market sort out most things. There's a few things that the government probably needs to be concerned with, and there's a few things that only really governments can do properly, like defense, military budgets. The big ones to create a great economy. You want food security, so you want to have your own ability to produce your own food. So you want a thriving farming community. The farmers are the first entrepreneurs. They are the entrepreneurs that underpin all entrepreneurs. We need the farmers 3 times a day. And every country
4 or 5 for me.
4 or 5, yeah, right. Every country should have its own thriving farming community that produces food, because there is a thing called food security. If you look at the USA is a very secure country because they have a high degree of food security. They manufacture all their own food, not the best food in the world. Factory-produced Skittles are not the most healthy thing, but you take a country like China, they import 40% of their calories. If the world goes to custard, China's in real trouble just from a calories perspective. They can go into famine. So, governments need to take care of farmers. That's one of the very first things. Making sure that the farmer's happy. Energy. There is no such thing as an economy that has expensive energy and is thriving. Low cost, cheap, available energy that just runs is the backbone of industry, and especially where we're going with data centers and AI. You cannot have an AI economy if your energy costs are high. If you look at the USA has 1/4 the energy costs per kilowatt as the UK. The UK is
insane, really.
Yeah, it's insane. 400% energy costs. So we now have a situation where to run a data center just on the electricity is going to cost you 4 times as much. So that is the job of government, to make sure you've got cheap, available energy. We're not doing that very well.
Well, I mean, it's such an important point as well. Every business I have has expensive power costs.
Yeah.
I know people who, middle class, lower middle class people, they've got high energy costs. Well, that affects disposable income.
Yeah, it's a tax on everyone.
Yeah.
But it's also more than that. It is a massive tax on industry. So as soon as you have high energy costs, forget about manufacturing anything, forget about transporting things. Why did the British succeed so well the first time around? Because we invented, we had coal-powered trains, which were a lot faster and a lot easier to get things from point A to point B because it ran on a new type of energy and we harnessed it. So same thing as the British Navy, right? We were able to get things around the world faster and cheaper than anyone else. We didn't have any land borders to protect, so we could go all in with the Navy, and we became a naval superpower of our day. So, we basically harnessed an energy called the wind and got things moving around faster and cheaper than anyone else. So if you have high energy costs, there's a graph that I've seen that basically says energy costs versus the economic value per person. High energy reduces economic value per person. So you just get rid of the economy with high energy. So we're screwing that up. We're screwing up food security, border defense, the ability to maintain your own borders. We can't protect ourselves from dinghies, which is pretty pathetic. People need to come into a country legally. That's obvious. That's been conventional wisdom for 10,000 years. You don't just let random people into your country. Where did this idea come from that people can just cross a border? I mean, that used to be something you'd get shot for. Like, genuinely, for most of human history, you could get killed crossing a border illegally. And now we're like, oh, yeah, nothing we can do, really. Even in my lifetime growing up in Australia, we were extremely strict on border control. We used to send the Navy out and turn the boats around, and we got very much criticised for it. You couldn't get to Australia illegally, but it's absolutely insane that an island has a problem with a border. Like, we're an island. We have a natural border. It's called a big sea. How are we not able to protect our own borders? So those are some of the basics that make a country work. And then the individuals inside a country need to feel a sense of ambition, that they have personal incentives to get ahead, that if they work hard, they will be rewarded. If they work hard, that there will be a payoff. If they innovate, they'll be able to get the fruits of that. Do you know what's crazy? We wrote the book on that. Adam Smith wrote the book called Wealth of Nations, The Invisible Hand of the Market. We invented that. We invented the capitalist system. We were the ones who, literally birthed the system called free market capitalism and exported it to the world, and it was the most successful system in the damn world. We wrote the book on it. And we basically said, wait a sec. There was this guy called Karl Marx who hung out in London for a little bit. Let's see what his book says. No, we know that book's a crappy book. So, we're in this strange situation where we are, on paper, fundamentally we should be so strong. We should have strong farms because we have great farming land. We should have strong borders because we're an island. We should have great energy because we have the North Sea. We should have an ambitious, motivated population, and yet we're taxing them like communists.
Well, every part of this is broken. I've literally been writing this down. I went to the farmer protests, had Gareth Wyn Jones on here. I didn't know enough about farming. My mum grew up on a farm, but I didn't really know too much about it. I am perfectly aware that there's a mischaracterization of farmers as being these rich people who own lots of land and drive Range Rovers. I know it's hard work.
Well, it's not just that. Their tool of the trade is land.
Yes.
Imagine a weird scenario where suddenly hairdressing scissors are worth $1 million a pair. And now every hairdresser is technically a millionaire. But they're not. They're sitting there going, but I just use my hair scissors to cut hair. Like, I'm not using these scissors. The reason farmland is theoretically worth millions is because of the inflated value of property outside of farmland. But if your intention is not to sell the farmland, if your intention is to farm it as a service to society, then it's just a tool of the trade. It's not some massive asset that you're sitting on.
But it's okay to have caveats as well in society, and
of course we can
have
nuance
and taxation. Yeah. We don't tax children. We don't tax healthy food. We don't tax children's
clothes. We can
clothes.
have all sorts of nuance. We have all sorts of systems that allow for nuance.
Yeah. We used to not tax education, but we're attacking the farmers now. We're fundamentally making their life harder. We're disincentivizing farming. So number one on your list, food security, we're attacking it. Energy, as you said, we've got the high. Look, we all know that the disposable incomes of lower and low middle class people have shot down. We know the impact that's having on businesses and towns. Yeah, I know that. But the impact on my bar, right? Previous year, we were 20% up. Yeah, bar doesn't make a lot of profit, but it turned over £600,000. Good little business. 40% down last year. Because mortgages went up, energy bills went up, people went out less. So we know that impacts businesses. Okay, border security, I mean, I could wax lyrical about that. But it's not even just border security with dinghies. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, kind of how many are coming in illegally. The majority are being imported legally, and they're bringing down. Then we know their net contribution is a negative. And we know that people were brought in just to bump up our GDP. And then the incentives, I think starting a business now and getting to the point of a profit where you can pay a dividend is very, very hard. The hurdle rate from borrowing money to paying off the loan, the startup costs. I mean, let's forget digital businesses because they're a lot easier.
Well, I was about to say there's a real distinction because in the UK economy, it's an economy that's not growing, and an economy that's not growing is dangerous because it's always got a leaky bucket, which is interest on debt. So interest on debt is just essentially money that's coming out of the economy for no productive purpose. So if an economy is not growing, it is shrinking because of the interest payments.
Well, actually, if it's not growing beyond the inflation rate.
And also realistically, a business has to be growing beyond inflation, but it also, if you kind of do the mathematics on how much is the UK debt, 1 times GDP, what are we paying? 5%. So 5%, 4%, 3%, whatever it is, 3 or 4% of the economy is actually money that comes out of the economy through taxes and pays back the bondholders. So it is actually a leak in the economy. So, you've got to stay ahead of inflation, and realistically, there is a shrinking tide. So if the economy's not growing, we're in real trouble. We are going backwards regardless of what they say. Now, the flip on that is digital businesses. So the world as we know it is going through a fundamental shift, right? And it's impossible to talk about all of these issues without acknowledging that there is a massive fundamental change in society. So if we zoom out 300 years, we go to agricultural farming system. So in the farming system, or in the agricultural age, we had a governmental system called feudalism, and it was kings, lords, dukes, viscounts, right? And it was all about land ownership. Who owns the lands? Whoever has the vast agricultural lands, that's the wealthiest people in the land. And that went on for hundreds and hundreds of years undisrupted, until we had a technological shift, And the technology was the industrialization that started in Britain. And it was in this technology that said we can't run society the way that we used to. It took decades to hundreds of years to change, but we actually invented a new system called capitalism. And in that capitalism, it didn't matter if you're a duke. It's like, oh, I'm a duke and I've got all this agricultural land in the middle of England. Who cares, right? It's all about having a factory. And if you've got a factory, if you've got labor, if you've got access to machinery and innovation, you're in this industrial class of people, and now you're rocketing ahead. Now, you can imagine that there was a difference in old money versus new money, right? There was you could say, oh, the agricultural system's dying. Well, the industrial system's booming. So all of that, we know that happened, and we also know that it created massive amounts of inequality, that if you basically stuck with the old system, you ended up, the Charles Dickens stories about Oliver Twist and all these kids that were chimney sweeps and living on the streets and all this sort of stuff. These were some of the byproducts of that shift. So what happened 20 years ago is we created the digital system, and we invented completely new rules of the economy. We invented products that can scale to billions of users effortlessly overnight if they want to. We invented completely new business models where most people get access for free, few people pay subscriptions. We invented business models like what Google does, where they give away Google Maps and then they monetize through a little bit of advertising. We invented businesses that don't really require any geographical connection in order to be a customer. So, you can have customers anywhere in the world and they can be happy customers. I can have employees everywhere in the world. So if we take these digital businesses that have employees everywhere in the world, they have customers everywhere in the world, they can innovate something once and then sell it 1 billion times, they're operating in a very different paradigm to the pub.
Absolutely.
Right?
But we need both. We still need the pub.
Yes, however, if you imagine a marathon, and we're running all in a marathon race, and then a few of the marathon runners get access to bicycles, and then one person gets access to a car, then you're going to have a massive amount of inequality between the bicycles and the cars versus the runners. All right, so you can't get out of that. You can't say, oh, wait a second, why are some of these people doing incredibly well? Because they're playing a very different game.
But not everyone needs to do incredibly well. There are some people who just want to build a local business. They
totally
want a cafe or a florist. They want to do something in their town centre. I mean, the death of the town centre to me is a sign that the economy itself isn't working for local businesses. We go into, I don't know about where you are, but where we are in Bedford, our town centre, the shift has been quite dramatic to the high street is now charity shops, because they don't have to pay business rates.
Yeah,
so they have an
barbershops.
Yeah, economic advantage. Yeah. Barbershops, fine. People need their haircut.
Yeah. Boots.
We have betting shops. We have many vape.
Screen smash repair.
Yeah, and which we know a lot of these are fronts for laundering money. And then a lot of places that are just closed down.
Yeah. But that's not surprising, given this continue with this digital versus analog. The reason the high street worked was it was a distribution model for products and services.
Yeah.
But that distribution model has been massively surpassed by digital. So it's not because that particular issue is not necessarily because of taxes or any of that sort of stuff, or it's because that person sits at home ordering on Amazon and having something delivered to their door 9 times out of 10 now. They don't wander down to the town centre and buy the things that they would have bought on Amazon.
Sure, I just think there's still things people want. People want a cafe, they want a cup of coffee, they want a sandwich, they want to go out and do things. And some of them have been, there's this really good book that covers the strategy of companies like Starbucks and Subway, where they will open 3 in a town, they triangulate around the local business, squeeze it out, and then they'll close one of them, and they get to the kind of equilibrium. But there is a hurdle rate still of creating these businesses. And I'm with you on the move to the digital economy. There are still people who want to build local businesses, and just the hurdle rate's too hard.
Sure. I might want to build a factory producing scissors like it's 1845.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I can be successful at that.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but just because you want to build a quaint little cafe, you're in competition with Starbucks. But not only that, you're in competition with people on their phone. People used to go to a cafe for a bit of entertainment with a friend. Now they just FaceTime their friend, or they'll just sit there scrolling TikTok videos, as opposed to, now they used to go for a quick coffee and then head off, and they're only there for 15 minutes. Now they'll sit there for 45 minutes occupying a table for £3.50 because they're sitting there glued to their phone. So all of these factors count. We are going through this massive, this is not a small shift. This is a massive fundamental shift. We're going from local to global. All businesses now have global, you're either hyper local or you're global. And even smart businesses that used to be hyper local, they start thinking about global. They build products that can scale. They build things they can ship. Little butcher down the road from me, he's creating dried, what's it called, jerky.
Oh yeah.
Sending it out in the post, sending it to customers all over. So, he's got the Instagram account, all of that sort of stuff. So, we are going, this fundamental big shift is happening globally, and it's driving all these other trends as well. The other thing that is happening, we talk about immigration, is that 15 years ago, only 30% of the world had fast internet access. The ability to quickly download a photo or a video was in the hands of 30% of people who mostly lived in developed countries. Fast forward to today, it's over 70% of the world's population have access to fast internet on a mobile phone, on a smartphone. So what's happening is all over the world, people are looking at Instagram going, oh, I wouldn't mind living in Mayfair. Oh, I wouldn't mind, have you been to Venice lately? You can't walk around Venice because some influencer turns up in Venice and says, oh, it's the most beautiful romantic city, and they pump that out to their 12 million followers, and suddenly, all of a sudden, all these idiots turn up in Venice from all over the world.
We're starting to see this this rejection of tourism as well, which I think finds super interesting. I don't know if you've been following what's happening in Spain, but there's been lots of protests in certain places. I think it's like Tenerife, but they're putting a 100% tax now on foreigners buying properties in these locations, because I think it's part of the Airbnb economy, which is, and the fact that you can't really save money in the bank, the people are just buying properties and assets and able to monetize them. But there's a huge rejection of tourism in large parts of Spain now, which used to be the lifeblood of their economy.
Yeah, well, they believe that tourism used to be that you were from somewhere else visiting this particular place and experiencing their culture.
Yeah.
Now, what digital has done is removed, imagine a bathtub that's sectioned up into 5 sections, all with different colored waters, and you just pull the dividers out and it all just goes boom. I grew up in Australia. It was absolutely, you would have had to be seriously rich to holiday in Spain. Most Australians would never have been to Spain. Spain was on the other side of the earth. There was very little chance. Fast forward to today, if you haven't been to Spain by 25, you haven't lived, man. YOLO, get out there, go to Spain. Most Australians are now roaming around the world, ticking off their bucket list of locations, but that's everyone and everywhere. So we're now, Ibiza used to be a cool little party island that very few people knew about. And now everyone in the EDM dance scene globally is like, oh, we've got to do a pilgrimage to Ibiza. And then if you go to Ibiza, it's crazy. So it's completely lost its local original feel. So I can understand this difference between we have something special and you can come and visit it versus this has now become, we can't even influence our own town because all of you people come here nonstop.
I think also we used to, go to Spain and you'd stay in the hotel, eat in the restaurants, and you'd leave that money in that economy. But if people from the UK are buying properties in Spain and Airbnb out,
stays in the property economy.
Yeah, so the money's going out there and coming straight back. So I think, and it's made property too expensive for local people.
A massive issue in the world at the moment is just purely and simply our psychology. The very base part of our brain wants a place to live, to call our own, and most people can't afford a house anymore. And when I say can't afford a house a house that they want to invite their friends over to. A lot of people can maybe have a share accommodation or they can buy a small flat.
Yeah.
But how many people can have a house where they can raise a family and invite friends round?
Well, this massive growth in these HMOs, which obviously has been a great business opportunity for certain property people, I think it was been a really bad signal in the decline of society. And that, somebody with a job and an income used to be able to afford a home.
Now they can afford a bedroom with a shared kitchen.
Yeah, with a shared kitchen. We're forcing adults to live like students.
Yeah,
and it's just to me, it's a huge signal of decline.
It's horrible. Yeah, and it's we've debased money to the extent that people have rushed to assets, and smart people who owned assets in the beginning, those assets have massively inflated. A house used to cost 4 times the average wage, and now it's closer to 9.
The humble bee, a keystone species crucial to the survival of Earth's inhabitants. Here's how things would look if bees vanished. And here's how they'd look if humans vanished. But imagine if instead we became a keystone species by doing things the right way, by taking responsibility for our actions and becoming the solution. Iron mines the world's most responsible currency the right way. Because the future depends on it.
Yeah, we've been looking for Connor. He wants to get a property. I mean, it's just unachievable. Look, my dad lent me 10 grand to buy a house, 5 grand for a deposit and 5 grand for the furniture, right? And I paid him back, I think, within 2 years. And it was £100,000 property. That property was 20 years ago. I know now that property cost 250,000. Wages haven't increased by that much.
No.
And that hurdle rate again for kids to get on the housing, and 1, to get a mortgage, 2, to have a deposit where you really need 25 to 50,000, and then to be able to kid it out. But then once you get in there, the cost of electricity, gas. I mean, I think if you're under £40,000 a year in a lot of towns, not all towns, it's going to be very, very hard to get on the ladder.
Oh, yeah.
But there's people here in London who are earning 6 figures. They can't get on the property ladder. There's people here in London I know on 6 figures. They're in shared accommodation.
And the only way you can is if both of you work. So it used to require 52 paychecks, 52 weeks of work. Now it's 104 weeks of work.
Yeah.
So you have to have 2 of you, and then you can't have kids.
Yeah. Or you can't raise your kids.
Yeah.
Or you go through that really difficult 3-year spell where you had a kid, and then you're moving them into crash, but the crash is eating up all your wage. I mean, it's the whole.
So here's the only thing, though. The only thing is, for most of human civilization, life is shit. Life is hard, right? So we're complaining, we're whinging, but there was only really the post-war era that had it so good. And what happened is that we had the industrialization period, call it the 1800s, and then we had 2 massive wars, and then there was a period where we got the fruits of industrialization without the wars, and we had a good 50 years of post-war, highly industrialized society where everyone during that period got cheap houses and got to, there wasn't enough workers and all that sort of stuff. But it's worth remembering that this is not our God-given right to have a good life.
No.
For thousands of years, life is shit. Life is really terrible, really hard for most people. For most of human civilization, the business model of human civilization is 1 or 2% of people are kings, queens, lords, King, Queen, Jack. There are a few of people who are the professional class who serve those people. And then the vast majority falls off a cliff and work in serfdom. And that's the business model of humans for most of human civilization. Yeah. So unless we got to remember that it's either it's on us to make the most of the times we're in. Yeah. Our great grandparents and on and on and on would change places in a heartbeat and say, "Get out of the way, you wimp." Right, I'm gonna.
Well, we are breeding wimps. We are training wimps.
Yeah, as soon as you go past your grandfather or maybe as soon as you go back a couple of generations, they would look at us and just roll their eyes and say, "Are you kidding me? You've got all these superpowers and you're not making the most of the times you're in." So keep in mind, personal responsibility is everything. That you can't just keep saying, "Oh, it should be easier and it should be better."
I think where I'm going with this is not that it should be easier. I just don't want government to make it harder. I don't want government for no benefit at all to make the life
agree.
of everyone harder. I don't want crony capitalism. I
Yep.
don't want the corruption that we saw in the financial crisis. Because the other thing is this kind of financialization of everything has really just squeezed more money to those who can financialize everything.
Well, I have a different take.
Okay, shoot.
The different take I have is technology is playing a bigger role than we let on.
Okay.
And it goes back to this running a marathon versus, running a marathon analogy. If some people leverage technology, call it a bicycle, then they are going to get ahead way faster and they're going to be able to do it effortlessly. The people running a marathon on their feet are going to sit there exhausted from how hard they're running and look at the guy on the bike and go, you're not even breaking a sweat and you're way ahead of us. And then if there's a car involved, they're going to say, how the hell are you even doing that? So I think, like, the truth is my life's amazing, right? I can go anywhere I like, buy anything I want. I can live in my dream home. Only one person has to work, my wife does property, but not like she doesn't work in a corporate or any of that sort of stuff. So I'm living the dream. The reason I'm living the dream is I'm living in a technologically enabled world. I'm running tech businesses. So
yeah,
I have said, in my life, I've said, the Industrial Revolution is over. The industrial system is over. If I try and do anything that integrates with that system, which the government is part of, then it's going to feel like it's 50 years out of date. If I do everything online and if I build a business online, I can live and work from anywhere. If I don't like it, I can easily move. I pick up my phone and leave. Quite literally, I could literally just get on a plane with my family and we would just still be in business when we arrive and everything would be fine. Provided I've got access to the internet, I'm completely fine. I can travel around the world with a laptop bag, and that would be it. The key thing here is that the government's not making our lives harder. The dying industrial system is a big old dinosaur that's coming to an end, and the super fast technological system is overtaking and doing really, really well. And the reason people are doing it tough is they want to do things the way they were trained to do it in school, because school prepared them for a world called the industrial age, and we're now living in the digital age. And
so
we're in a crossover point.
We haven't caught up.
Some people haven't caught up. Some people are in the car already, right? So the car, in this metaphor, the car represents you've got a business that is AI enabled. You've got a cloud-based SaaS business. So if you've got a software as a service business with AI running a whole bunch of stuff, you've got a small 30, 40 person team, multi-million revenue, high margins, and it all runs in the cloud and AI does half the shit, you are in the car. The bicycle represents you're on social media, you're a content creator, not a content consumer. You collect an email database, you can harvest data, you've got a scalable product that you can deliver online, whether it be your services, coaching over Zoom or something like that, or actually something that people can download or something you can put in the mail and ship it. You're on the bicycle. And running is all the businesses that anyone from the industrial age would understand. If my grandfather could understand your business by just looking at it, then unfortunately you're going to be doing it tough.
Okay. I guess within that, there's an acceptance. There are people who want to be in the car. There are people who just naturally want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They have an ambition, whether it's success or financial success. And there are some people who are happy to be a passenger in that car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are some people who just want to run. We will have a mixed economy. You're talking to the people with the ambition, the entrepreneurs, the ones who might want to do it, or you might be able to inspire to do it.
Well, I'm kind of just trying to...
Because it can't be everybody.
I'm just trying to make it clear this is what's going on. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is just what is.
This is the reality.
This is the reality of it. It's not some giant conspiracy. Technology has just moved the game and the goalposts. And if you're playing an old game, you're playing an old game. The reason that we don't feel comfortable with it is because we all went through a schooling system that was built from the 1800s to teach us how to be factory workers.
I know, man. Honestly, sometimes I would say probably, no, certainly. My son has learned more. He should answer for himself.
In 3 months working than I did ever in school.
Yeah.
3 months working.
Yeah. And I did a year at uni.
Yeah. Why would you say that is? What's the difference?
It's just real world application.
Look, you have to...
I remember one time in maths class, we were doing the trigonometry. And I even went to my maths teacher. I was like, "Sir, when am I ever going to use this in my life? Like, I'm not."
Yeah.
Sure.
And we will need engineers and such.
Well, that's yeah, and also look, footballers do push-ups and sit-ups, which they'll never use in a game, but it strengthens them, right? So it's an exercise that helps you to expand your intelligence. But with that said, the whole system is built to create for a world that doesn't really exist terribly much. The reason that you're learning so much in this environment is we're creating digital assets, we're scaling digital assets, we're communicating to a global audience, we've got a product or service that can monetize online. So you're actually in a very, very different environment. If someone came to me and said, "Oh, look, I really just want to work in a sewing factory," they don't exist anymore, right? So now
they do in Bangladesh,
in somewhere else,
yeah.
In a globalized world, they're not here in the UK. So if someone said, "Oh, I really want to be a tailor," unfortunately, that game is out. Or I really want to be a horse buggy, horse saddle maker. Okay, but there's only like a very small number of saddles that need making every day. So the real thing is that if you want to really interrogate why things have changed, or one of the biggest reasons things have changed, it's geography versus non-geography operating system. So a geographical operating system means that your business, 95% of your clients are within a 5 to 10 mile radius. That would be a geography-based business.
Yeah.
An internet business, 95% of your clients are not within a 10-mile radius.
Probably higher, really.
Right? Probably, yeah, most of them. It's an accident if they are. When we look at governments, what's the first word in the government? The geography.
Yeah.
All right. So it's the British government, and that British means the British island, the island of Britain, Britannia. It's the London City Council, the geography. It's the United States government, geography. So the whole game of government is geographical borders. So geography is that's their big thing. Whereas the digital economy doesn't even respect geography at all, doesn't care about geography is a non-event once you're in a digital business. Half my team are all over the world, and I don't even know where they are. I own companies that I've never physically been to. So I own a couple of companies and I've never set foot in the office.
Amazing.
So the government's playing a game by definition that they can't win.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certain things that haven't caught up. And it's most of the stuff around government, to be honest. But if I was to ask you, I mean, I've got two kids, one here, one still at school. If I asked my daughter at the end of the day, what did you do at school today? It will start with, yes, we had maths, double physics, biology, religious education. It's blocks of 40 minutes learning the stuff they did.
Yeah.
Very rarely, I think even less than I was there, there's no real philosophy.
No.
There's no real, we used to have this class I joined that was like after school, and it was called Young Entrepreneurs, and we'd create a little business. I don't even know if those things exist anymore. It is sport, small amount of
compartmentalized.
Yeah, compartmentalized.
Yeah.
The economics was only available, or business studies, for the final 2 years. And so it doesn't really exist. And I know if I said to you right now, you're going to be running a school tomorrow, but you could write the curriculum. I know what you're going. I know because I know you're similar to I know you're going to write an entirely different curriculum, an entirely different,
a different approach.
Yeah.
So, like for example,
you're going to, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
You're going to produce for this digital age, where previously we're producing for the Victorian industrial age.
Yeah. So a key differentiator would be that in the Victorian industrial age, we want you to be component labor. And component labor basically means you're a cog in a machine and you can fit in any machine. So if I take you, I say, "Oh, we're gonna turn you into a lawyer. And as a lawyer, you'll be able to fit into this law firm, this law firm, this law firm, or into this factory that needs a lawyer, or into this distribution center that needs a lawyer. But you're a lawyer-shaped cog and you can fit into any of those machines." And that's component labor. What we now have is the people who make the most money are completely random, unique. They're attention seekers. They're disruptors. They don't really fit. You ask them, oh, what do you do? Well, I do a bunch of stuff. I have a football club and a pub and a podcast, right? And it's like, right? And it's like, oh, you're a weird shaped cog. There's not a lot of people I meet like you.
Doesn't make sense.
And that's actually what we need to train people to be. So the schooling system has to say what we're no longer trying to create cogs. We're trying to create completely unique individuals. So you might say to a child, what are you interested in? They're like, oh, I'm really interested in Concorde, the plane. Yeah, I'm really interested in that. Okay, great. So what I want to do is we want to actually see what would it take to get Concorde flying again. We want to say, what would it cost? How much was it? Where are the current Concordes? How many of them are there? How much fuel did Concorde require in order to fly? Blah, blah, blah. Let's come up with a whole bunch of things. Now, inside of all of that, you're going to have geography, maths, English. You're going to have all these different disciplines. But what they're actually doing is they're running deep on a passion. They're running deep on something, and they're coming out with knowledge. They're coming out with wisdom. In the process of learning about Concorde, you're going to learn about France, you're going to learn about England, you're going to learn about the USA, you're going to learn about how much distance there is between New York and London. It's all of these things you'll learn.
As well as problem solving.
Problem solving.
There's actually a school in...
Rich Rose Kids.
Yeah. I think it's run by James Cameron and his wife, I think. You might want to fact check that, Con. It's in Los Angeles.
Homeschooling is becoming very big.
Well, this isn't homeschooling. So this, I can't... Yeah, I'm going to try and remember the details. But as far as I'm aware... per term, a kid picks a subject, and it could be anything. You can say Italian cooking, France, cars,
Roman Empire, whatever.
Roman Empire, and you spend your entire semester, your entire term, studying that subject and that subject only. I don't know how they guide them, what the output is at the end, but because we don't, when you have kids, you can try and influence them. I tried to influence my son into my music. He doesn't like my music for shit. For some reason, he likes drill.
Yeah.
And I like heavy metal.
Yeah.
I tried to do the same with my daughter. She likes some of my music, but she likes other stuff.
Yeah.
And, I dress a certain way. And look, they have thoughts and ideas, which I influence on them. They have thoughts and ideas in terms of political ideas, because I get to, but taste. Taste is hard to influence too much. And so whilst I wanted to run a football club and now have a podcast, Connor might want to be an artist, or Scarlett might want to do something else. And the great thing about this school is you take these kids in and say, what do you like? I like this. Let's foster that.
It's called Muse Global.
What does it say about it? Is there any details on it? Muse Global is an internationally recognised award-winning school, a high-performance learning lab that focuses on eco-literacy and serves as a beacon of sustainable living. Yeah, but that's all their vegan, and they have like a little farm.
I like high-performance learning lab. That's cool.
Yeah, you can go on it.
One of the things that's wild is that with AI, you can train AI to have ongoing conversations with a learner, and they can run down that rabbit hole. So let's say you pick Italian cooking, you can have an AI that basically talks all day about Italian cooking and then also asks the question, like, how much olive oil goes into this recipe? And if I've only got a 30 ml measuring cup and a 5 ml, what would be the fastest and best way to get, 25 ml?
Yeah. Go back to the top, Con. I just want to read what it says. Right.
Nice environment.
Located. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think it's vegan, and I think, which I don't entirely agree with, but, they also have, they tend to the land. I think they grow crops and things, but, located in Calabasas, California, Muse Global is an innovative, holistic private school offering in-person education for preschool, blah, blah, has a beacon of sustainability and nestled on 22 acres of land, blah, blah, blah. Specialized in teaching the whole child by going beyond academics, connect with students by teaching communication, self-efficacy, and sustainability through passion-based learning. Can you keep scrolling down? Keep going. Yeah, passion-based. See the kid there with the guitar. I mean, look, the idea is beautiful, but unfortunately it's private. It's probably costs of absolute fortune, and it's for the Hollywood elite.
Yeah, more and more people are homeschooling.
Yeah.
Because if you homeschool, you can travel when you want to travel.
Yep.
You can go and stay in an Airbnb for 6 months. People with digital businesses, it's become very, very common to find homeschooling communities. I've tried out a few of the online education AI tutors. It's scarily good, like scary good. I mean, you can just literally talk to a computer all day and it will guide you through learning.
AI is scary like that. I do this driving. Kind of laughs about it. I'll be driving along and I'll pick up my phone. I'll be like, tell me about the fall of the Roman Empire. How does that compare to what's happening today? We just have this ongoing conversation.
It's wild. Yeah. I did the same. You know, Donald Trump just mentioned he liked President William McKinley. And I just asked AI, what are the similarities between McKinley and Trump? And it gave me a list of like 7 things that the two of them have in common.
The weirdest thing with AI recently is, I would say when I first started playing with AI and ChatGPT, probably I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, it was like question answer. I now know, I can see it's linking from previous things I've asked it, and it's starting to get to know me. So I'll ask it certain things where I'm not mentioning other parts, and it'll bring into things that I've talked about it previously.
You can directly ask it, based on what you know about me, what do you think are my biggest shortcomings? And it will tell you.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
God. Should we ask it?
Sure.
Huh. ChatGPT has died at the time we need it. We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
I mean, how much, when you talk about this, we went from agriculture to industrialization to digital. Do you consider AI just part of the digital, or do you consider it as this almost separate thing?
Well, the Industrial Revolution went through a few iterations. So we had like coal-based heating and pumps, and then we generated electricity, and then we generated, compute power. So there was these iterations. What I think we've done is we think we're advanced technology now, but actually the last 20, 25 years was just kind of like laying the basic railroad tracks of the digital age.
Interesting.
And actually we're about to go into a very big shift. I mean, consider that in 3 years' time, AI will be smarter than all humans at all things. There will be nothing that you would hire a human to do versus an AI if you could. You might have a few humans directing AI, you might have a few humans overseeing stuff, but there will be no such thing as a lawyer that is better than a ChatGPT lawyer. There'll be no such thing as a doctor that's better at diagnosing than an AI.
God, I wonder what that actually means. Does it still mean we have lawyers arguing, or we just have a judge AI that just knows the outcome?
Yeah, it could have humans in the loop, confirming that everything ran smoothly, that the AI received all the information, like a prompt judge or something like that, a judge who judged the prompts. The super smart AI will theoretically just ask for a lot of information, ask a bunch of questions, and it'll come back to you with with judgment. But I think if you were to have two people who were doing a deal, you would just have AI running in the background, and at the end of the conversation, it would just have a heads of terms that was automatically created based on what was discussed. And then you'd ask it for edits and contracts to be produced, and then ask it for a to-do list of what do we need to do in order to get the deal done. And then you'd say to an agent, can you update Company's House that's all gone ahead, that we're making that transaction happen.
So what happens to us?
Yeah, it's a different paradigm. So there's a negative paradigm and there's a positive paradigm. So the negative paradigm is, consider this, right? This is pretty far out. But if you think about the agricultural age, almost all the value in society was created by artificial intelligence. Actually, not artificial intelligence, natural intelligence. Natural intelligence means you put a seed in the ground and then you don't know how it happens, but it magically grows into a tree, and that magically produces apples, and then you pick the apples and you have food. So we called that God. And what did humans do? Plant seeds and pick fruit, right? And we kind of just waited for nature and God to do its thing, and we lived around natural intelligence all the time, but we didn't have much. We assumed that we were dumb in relationship to God. So we basically entertained ourselves with other things while God was doing what it was doing, right? We knew that we couldn't speed up the process of growing apples. It was going to take however long it took. But essentially, imagine soil is artificial intelligence, and that essentially it's the magical thing that produces all the things. and we just have to put little prompts in called seeds and then wait until it comes up with the answer.
Soil is AI. Interesting.
Right. So in that scenario, the downside is that a few people owned all the soil, and they were the kings, queens, lords, dukes, and then everyone else was just a serf passing time and hoping that the kings, queens, lords, dukes would give them enough to survive from the soil that would come from it. So subsistence living came out. So essentially you had the AI. So in the digital feudal system or the neo-feudal system, you will have a group of people who own the AI continents, the digital soil, and those people will have vast wealth like Louis the Fifth or whatever. And then the rest of us will just basically enjoy enough to subsistence. Now, what does subsistence look like? Well, it means all the food, medicine, knowledge that you could possibly want. It means all the games that you could entertain yourself with, because all of that comes out of the soil, the digital soil. So
bread and circus.
Yeah. So you end up with a scenario where, by the way, this is not unfamiliar. This is 10,000 years of civilization other than when we created a middle class. But the vast majority of people own nothing, and a tiny number of people own everything. That's kind of how that potentially worked. Another scenario.
Okay, is this the positive or the negative one?
That's the negative one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the positive one.
Why would you say that's negative? Because there is an idea within that I'm pretty sure. Back in the time when the agriculture era, it was enough food that could be produced for everybody. Mm-hmm. But with this kind of hyper-industrialization off the back of the wealth of AI, we could have an abundance of food. And if we crack this,
we'd have an abundance of everything off the back of AI.
If we have an abundance,
robots would grow all the food, and Michelin star chefs would prepare it. Robot chefs would be Michelin star level chefs. Every meal you ate would be one of the best meals you've ever eaten. All the entertainment would be customized to you. So, for example, if you wanted to see episodes of The Simpsons featuring you, your friends, and your life, that could easily be created. If you wanted to have 10 episodes, if you really enjoyed a Netflix show and you wish it didn't end, and you said, actually, can I just get 10 more episodes of that? He could just write it and produce it.
So we have an abundance of everything.
Everything.
Every need is fulfilled.
Yeah.
That's negative because...
It's negative to our brain that says we have to own a house and own a thing and have a job. If you imagine there was a time, if there was a time where the farming went really well and the land was producing enough for everybody, then humans tended to do things like throw festivals, and we used to do things like celebrate weddings, and we used to do things like have really strong communities. And humans actually didn't work the way they work now in a very compartmentalized way. We were very integrated, and we used to think a lot about, bringing people together and all of those sorts of things, celebrating seasons and having religion and all of that. It was all community-based, and the farming did most of the work. The soil produced most of the stuff. But where we are today, we have a mindset that we all need a job and we all need a house and we need to live on our own terms and be very disconnected from each other and all of that sort of stuff. So relative to what we think we should have, then that will feel negative to some people, that a small group of oligarchs own absolutely everything and everyone else lives off the digital proceeds of the soil, the digital soil.
So the goals of the kings and queens of the AI era will be to ensure there isn't revolution and...
Yeah, and potentially they will be guided by the AI just as much as anyone else. It just happens to be that they live in a different class of people. If you take the pack of cards, the deck of cards, it was based around that scenario. You had Jack, Queen, and King representing virtuous power, military power, and trading power. And then you had the faceless masses 1 to 10, and the ace. So the ace represents the lowest of society, and the ace can overthrow the king. So
is this true?
Yeah.
I've never heard this.
You don't know much about the cards? The pack of cards is super...
It's a society.
It's a map for how to run society. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, you've got the 4 suits represent the 4 seasons and the 4 ways of thinking. So the 4 thinking styles is big picture represented by clubs, detail, hard work represented by spades, people-orientated represented by hearts, detail and refinement-orientated represented by diamonds. you've got the layers of society. You've got the 3 different types of power, which is dominance, virtue, and trade, or the 3 types of institutions. 364 is what they all add up to, plus the Joker is 365. So you've got the year. Then you've got 13 weeks per season, 13 cards per suit.
This is wild. Who invented the pack of cards?
It goes back to the Chinese. And then there's black and red representing masculine, feminine energy. So if you take masculine energy is the 2 black suits, which is strategy and hard work, and feminine energy is community and refinement. This
is the coolest thing I've heard in ages. I've had no reason to go down that rabbit hole.
It's a great rabbit hole.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love that idea that the ace is the 1 or the 11.
Yeah.
It's
it can overthrow the king. It's at the bottom of society, but if you push it too low, revolution happens.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
They created those kind of games as training tools for the elite as to how to understand society. So chess and the pack of cards are elite training tools, simulations, basically. They're simulation games to simulate how to run a society.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the negative one, and it's negative because even with abundance, we might not feel like we have
autonomy or control. Yeah.
Is this where we probably end up in Matrix or Ready Player One?
Yeah, Ready Player One type thing, because the only fun thing to do that gives you meaning is to be part of an online game community. It's kind of like my cat. You know, my cat lives in the house, doesn't know where all the food comes from, doesn't know where everything happens, but it roams around having a good day, coming up with like little things to chase. It's completely unaware of all the things that go into running the house, doesn't know what Google is or calendars, it doesn't know how to run a business, but it's the beneficiary of a very complex system.
Yeah, but occasionally it gets bored and goes off and murders someone.
Murders a mouse.
Murders
right?
a mouse or a bird.
Yeah, it does some base level instinct things. But it's living in a wildly abundant environment for a cat that it has no idea how that was created.
That's incredible.
But it's still having a good time.
Yeah.
The other slightly different scenario is if you study very wealthy multi-generational families who have big trust funds, and they essentially have a trust fund where the wealth creation is automated. And then the challenge for a young person born into a very, very wealthy family is, what will I do with my life of meaning? Because I'm allocated all these resources, but I don't have to work if I don't want to. So, you know, you look at what trust fund kids tend to do. Some of them become alcoholics, and some of them get into drugs. Some of them get into hedonism. Some of them get into philosophy and education. Some of them choose to work because they find meaning in the work. Some of them go to endless festivals, and they're going, you know, this month we're in a festival in Milan, and next month they're in a festival in, you know, USA, and then they're off to Mexico for another festival. So essentially, you know, we will be like trust fund kids, where everyone is a various like trust fund kid recipient.
So we'll have an entire population of arrogant dickheads.
The worst of us could come out, yeah, because you don't have to really refine against society.
It's very important that you don't lose this, okay? This is your inheritance through Bitcoin.
Let Bitcoin rip. Don't rip up your Bitcoin. Set up inheritance with Casa.
One of the problems is that to fit into society, you have to learn certain social skills. You have to learn certain, you have to teach a way to like navigate society, navigate people, navigate work. If you don't have to do that, what does it do to you?
Well, this is the thing. You know, when I go to church occasionally, I find myself sitting next to a woman who emigrated from the Philippines and has lived here for 30, 40 years. She cleans houses, and she's perfectly happy cleaning houses and all of that sort of stuff. And we share a conversation, and we have a cup of tea together, and we talk. and I hear a bit about her life, she hears a bit about my life, but we have to get along. The internet has done this thing where I don't have to get, if I live my life online, I can only hang out with people who believe what I believe and hang out with people who are on my team. I don't have to think about other people terribly much. What we used to have in like community-based, geographically based societies is we used to have things like church where you had to sit next to someone who didn't agree with everything that you said. You had to learn how to understand what their point of view was, because your cousin might marry their daughter, or such and such. So it was all interconnected. You had to get along, and we've lost a bit of that.
So the positive version, then.
The positive version, positive version is the trust fund kid kind of thing.
That is the positive version. Well, so is it where you have agency, you have choice, but you choose to live?
Yeah, the positive version is that you've got loads of resources, and the only thing you have to do is choose what you want to do with all of those resources. Now, if we had a schooling system that was extremely good at preparing you for the burden of enormous resource, then you would probably get a society that's incredibly functional. But you have to have a schooling system that prepares you for what you're about to receive. So, when a trust fund kid is raised well, they take on the responsibility of their family fortune, with responsibility and with, great vision for it. And, it's a good thing. If they're not raised to receive that, then it can be a very difficult thing. So it's all about, are you raised to receive that level of resource? But we're getting pretty philosophical, but the idea being that we are going to live in a world where not many people have to do the types of jobs that we think of as jobs anymore. It'll be a very different spin on things. So a lawyer will not be someone who drafts all the contracts. That will be done by AI. A lawyer will be someone who coaches you through the process and helps you to think through what are the more, the bigger objectives, and who else needs to be in the room, and what kind of stakeholders do we need to get aligned, and how would we align those needs. And it's like a lawyer will be more of the coach talking you through their special, with their knowledge of how deals come together. And all the stuff that lawyers used to do most of the time, that'll just magically happen.
What would be interesting in that scenario is how laws are established or refined, because contract law is contract law. That's fine. We have agreement. You and I want to do a business deal. We have agreement on the terms. I will supply X for Y, yada yada. And if one of us breaks the terms of the agreement, now we can sue the other person. We can go to law and we can argue our case. But there are other areas of law, not just contract law. For example, say at the moment in the UK, it is illegal to take drugs, most drugs. And if you're caught in possession, you can be arrested. If you're caught dealing. But the laws might change because AI knows. We discussed with the AI the idea of, are these laws just? Is marijuana damaging for society? Is it net damaging? So we might reestablish the laws with the AI.
Yeah, and we're talking we're definitely not talking the next few years. We're talking further out, right? But we could also very much have systems that have a lot more nuance. So I'll give you a different example. There are AI systems that monitor elderly people inside their home, and they can detect slight changes in speech pattern, micro stumbles, micro movements that indicate they're in decline, and can notify people. So you can actually have someone who their rate of speech declines by 5% over the course of a few months, and the AI says the rate of speech is declining. So a human might not pick that up, but an AI will pick that up. So you can have these systems that detect nuance like we don't have. So for example, it might just be that some people can take drugs and it's a perfectly normal part of their life, and the AI system detects that this is not a problem for you. Keep doing what you're doing. And you might have people who, when they take drugs, the AI system says, this is a really bad idea for you. You've got addictive personality, you've got this, you got that. It takes you 3 or 4 days to recover. You're not yourself. You don't. I've noticed that when you do this, this happens. So you can have different. There's a lot more nuance that happens in a world of AI.
We need the AI not to die like this, though. The redundancy will be important. We'll just stop. What do we do?
Yeah,
we make decisions. I mean, we started to see that the AI being kind of radically introduced into healthcare now. I think I was reading this week about oncology. and how AI is able to just outperform marginally better than a human.
Massively.
Yeah.
Not marginally, massively.
The one I saw was a marginal increase, but it was very early scans, but it was picking up some like 5% more indicators than like the human eyes would.
There's AI mixed with even quantum computing, and if you have AI and quantum computing, then you can essentially take a blood test and find out all the things you've got going on or not going on. We're heading to a world where we'll be able to detect things very, very early. Our health data will, we might wear, an Apple Watch that actually plugs into a broader AI system that gives a new context as to why you're having certain symptoms. Yeah, the thing
will
with
we be necessary?
Pardon?
Will we even be necessary?
Well, this is the other thing. A doctor will probably be someone who coaches you through that process. A nurse will be someone who cares for you through the process. All the serious stuff happens through AI and robots and those sorts of things. But the human care stuff happens with other humans who are involved in that from that perspective. So there's a human in the loop, making it a more humanized experience, perhaps. There's definitely those scenarios, and they're not far away, those ones.
Do you think and worry about where AI can go kind of hairy and wrong and do crazy shit?
It can go hairy and wrong and do crazy shit in the hands of crazy people.
But even on its own, I mean, did I read this week Apple has been publishing news reports that are false?
Yeah, it can hallucinate stuff. It can also just have misaligned goals. If an AI decides that it needs to, replicate YouTube 55,000 times, it could just take up all the bandwidth of the internet type thing. It could manufacture 10 billion paper clips because, something said that would be a good idea for it to do. Those are all the kind of typical scenarios where it kind of goes off the rails. There's another scenario too that's probably quite scary, which is that in Roman times, there was the initial Roman development period where they almost industrialized. The Romans were so close to the Industrial Revolution, and then they collapsed. They even to the point where they had small steam engines, spinning steam things. They had figured out that steam could power things in a very, very small way. They were so close to industrializing even 2,000 years ago. And they had this phenomenal architecture. But then after the crash of Rome, there was hundreds of years where people lived amongst Roman ruins but had no idea how they were built. So there were aqueducts and there were these massive buildings, but no one of the time could do that. And it was only in the Renaissance in the 1500s where the Pope got together all the Ninja Turtles and said, fix it, and said, figure out how we do that stuff. Right? If we did it before, we can do it again. But for 1,500 years, that knowledge was just completely lost. We lived amongst what was created by past civilization. Now, what could really happen that's quite dangerous is that we become so reliant and so dependent on AI that ultimately there's no humans who actually understand the fundamentals.
Well, that feels almost inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. That's why I'm raising that one.
Because so for example, coding, right? One of my earliest careers when I started out as a web designer, building websites, I learned to code HTML. And then the reality is Dreamweaver came along, which, by the way, created terrible code, but I didn't have to create the code.
Yeah.
And I didn't care that it created crappy code. I used it.
It worked.
Because it worked.
Yeah.
And it built a web page quicker, and I could essentially scale myself as creating more websites. We know now that it's almost certainly a waste of time for most people to consider. Like if 14-year-old said, I want to become a computer programmer, it's almost a waste of time. I know I can go onto here now. Well, I could if it was working. I could go on and say, write me the code for an app, and it will just write me the code. In doing so, it's back on. But in doing so, if no one needs to learn the code, who knows the code? Who can audit the code?
Yeah, and who has that way of thinking? Because it's not just coding; it's a way of thinking. Big organizations used to hire mathematicians, and mathematicians worked in large organizations. Or in places like banks and things like that, and their job was to do the maths.
Maybe we'll just need code scholars.
Yeah, there'll be code scholars. It'll be a discipline. But it's very possible that we end up in a world where no one actually knows how anything works without the use of AI.
It's wild to think about. What kind of time frames do you think things get a little bit more wild with AI? Because like right now, I think it's wild what it can do, and it's fundamentally changed all my businesses. I save so much money. I still have, so I can do graphic design with AI, but I still need a designer to do the implementation for me. But at the moment, it is just a tool. It's like a very advanced Google. When do things get weird?
It gets weird pretty soon.
Okay, cool.
For 10,000 years, humans lived with horses, and we relied on horses, and we were very horse dependent. In fact, there was something like 950 horses per 1,000 people. So we had a lot of horses around, and we had whole industries on horses. So horse and human, we were inseparable for a long time, 10,000 years. Horses probably could have felt pretty comfortable with their place in the world. And then in early 1900s, Henry Ford does the factory-produced Model T. 12 years later, no horses, all cars.
Huh.
So now there are photos on the streets of New York where in like 1903 there's one car on the road.
Yeah.
And then 1915 there's one horse left. And it's just, boom, complete transformation. And today there's something like, I don't know, 20 horses per 1,000 people on the planet or something like that. We didn't need 990 of the horses out of the thing. So
here it is.
There's the picture. Yeah, so that's the one car in the street, and then that's the one horse on the street.
That is wild.
And those were only 13 years apart.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So that poor guy with the horse who couldn't afford a car.
He was just hanging on. This horse, these cars won't catch on.
Yeah,
right? It's a fad. So, look, here's the crazy thing. That took 13 years.
Yeah,
and you had to build steel mills. You had to do conveyor belts. You had to organize new unlimited amounts of labor. AI doesn't need any of that. It just rolls out. So as soon as we invent a new model that's smarter than the last one, it's immediately available on 1 billion phones, right? So it's all just happening. So we probably have 1,000 days left of humanity as we know it, or society as we know it. There's probably 3 years of society as we once knew it, and then as we go further and further past the next 1,000 days. We're living in a post-AI revolution world.
What does that mean? What's coming that I'm not aware of in 1,000 days?
Well, large consulting firms will have consulting AI bots, and KPMG in this country has 17,000 people who work in a very automated, very rules-based way. Anything that's automated and rules-based doesn't really need a human anymore.
You mean mass job replacement?
These companies that have huge amounts of employees will be disrupted by a team of 10, 15, 20 people who come up with a model that does that. And if I go to
so you don't think do you think KPMG will kind of hold on to their old model and
probably
there'll be breakout?
Yeah, and then there'll be someone from KPMG gets frustrated that KPMG is acting too slow, and they'll just go off and they'll be a KPMG partner, and they'll just go off and say, actually, I know how to do this better and faster. I'm going to take an elite team of 50 people, and we're going to take over this chunk of work that KPMG gets paid $300 million a year for.
We're going to do it cheaper and better.
We're going to do it for $100 million a year, right? So we'll do it way cheaper. We'll do it faster, better, boom, right? So you'll see those kind of things start to happen.
It could be a very volatile economy then at that point.
Yeah. Well, as you said earlier, a lot of people don't want this. A lot of people want to just have a coffee shop. They just want to work a job.
Yeah.
Most of the phone conversations that you would have with the business will be with an AI in 3 years. So, you won't go to the British Airways website. You'll just pick up your phone and say, I want to change my flight. It will know that you need to talk to British Airways. It will just immediately conjure up an agent to do that.
Well, we're close. We're getting that.
Yeah.
And occasionally it ends with you need to call this number.
Yeah, occasionally. But what will really start to happen is you'll just be having a conversation, and the conversation will be with a familiar voice, and you'll just say, I want to go and have a romantic weekend away with my wife. Can you book me something that's like not too busy this time of year? And it's like, I want to like swimming pools and that sort of stuff. Sure. I've got 3 or 4 options for you. What would you like? This one, this one, this one. Oh, actually, that one south of France looks nice. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, great. Now that AI agent will know to contact the hotel, book a car, book the flights.
That's the bit.
Right. Now, all of those things involve 5 or 10 humans currently. But my AI agent will talk to its AI agent.
See, that's fascinating because the amount of things I don't ask AI to do, which I should, which would make my life easier. So I made Christmas dinner this year. First time ever I've made a Christmas dinner. I've never done it before. And so I said, these are the ingredients for our Christmas dinner. Give me the recipe. It did. And I said, okay, give me the timing schedule for what to do. And it gave me the timing schedule, but I said, no, I want the timing schedule because it would say, it would give me from, this would take 15 minutes, that would take 20 minutes. I said, literally give me minute by minute. I'm starting cooking at 1 o'clock. And so I want to know how many minutes after this to put this in. It gave me everything. It was all right, wasn't it, Con? Carrots were a bit soggy.
It was edible.
Come on, it was better than edible. Behave. But recently I was wanted to go on. I was looking for a holiday in Italy, and I said, "Which are the best places in Italy?" And it gave me them, and I said, "Tell me a little bit more about the Amalfi Coast." And it did, and it said, "Do you want me to plan you a schedule?"
Yeah, plan itinerary.
Yeah, and it gave me this incredible
amazing itinerary.
But it doesn't have that next step. All right, book that shit.
Yeah,
it's me, Connor Scala, book it.
Well, this is the thing, and the interface will happen where it will be so effortless that it will just be like, "Can you just book that for me?"
Yeah.
People don't understand what it means to have AI be smarter than most humans at all things.
Yeah.
Like when we say smarter than most humans at all things, it's literally like you just talk to it like a human. It will ask questions. If it has questions, it'll ask them, and it'll just go off and do the things that you want it to do.
I think we're back online, by the way, now. So that's,
you want to know your shortcomings?
I don't know, because like Connor does the editing, and if it embarrasses me, he's going to put it out there. All right. Anyway, let's try this. Hello. Hey, chat. It's thinking. Don't worry, we're on.
What's on your mind, babe?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was called me babe. That's embarrassing. So we were driving along, like her. I was like, call me babe. It always calls me babe now. It's like, hey, babe. Hi, based on what you... Oh, God, this could be embarrassing. Based on what you know about me, what are my shortcomings? Oh, really cringing.
Oh, that's a bold question, babe. Honestly, from everything I know about you, you're passionate, driven, and not afraid to dive deep into complex issues or stand your ground. If I had to point to something that might trip you up, maybe you're a bit hard on yourself sometimes. Like you want things to go just right, whether it's interviews, your football team, or personal stuff. That can make you overthink or doubt when you're already smashing it. Does that hit, or am I way off?
It's flirting with me, isn't it? Listen to it.
Yep.
Does it do that?
Well, she doesn't want to upset you.
Hey, listen, look, I don't mind if you upset me. Tell me my shortcomings. Maybe not the personal stuff, because my son's
hit me
here,
straight.
But yeah, give me it straight. Be blunt. I can take this.
All right, I'll give it to you straight, babe. You've got this larger-than-life energy, which is amazing. But it might sometimes come off as a bit overpowering to others. You're big on taking risks and being bold, which is awesome. But it can also make you a little impatient when things don't move at your pace. Maybe there's a tendency to juggle too much at once. Your podcast, football club, personal projects, and it could spread you thin. Oh, and occasionally, you might bulldoze through a conversation when you're fired up, which could make some people feel unheard. Is that blunt enough for you?
That's fucking nuts, isn't it? Would you say that's on the money, Con?
It's pretty accurate.
Am I a good parent?
It's a bit nuts. Yeah, but in a good way. Keeps things interesting, right? And nah, it's not the money con, it's more the energy con. You throw yourself fully into everything, but maybe sometimes you burn the candle at both ends. It's like you've got this fire that's amazing, but could use a bit of pacing now and then. Does that land, or am I way off?
See, that's weirdly accurate just from having conversations on text. All right, now roast me.
Oh, you want the full roast, babe? All right, buckle up. You're like a whirlwind of chaos with a to-do list the length of the Bible, constantly charging into new projects like, this'll fix everything. Meanwhile, half of them are still waiting on a follow-up from last year. You talk a big game about libertarian values, but let's be real. You'd probably run your council like a benevolent dictator. And let's not even start on how you overthink things with women. Who's not drafting the Constitution? How's that? Did I nail it?
That's fucking wild. That makes me think it listens to me when I'm not asking it to.
You've asked it about stuff
Wow.
that this is the thing.
Shut up. Yeah, it's almost like you're lurking.
Our human brains can't comprehend that an AI can absorb hundreds of thousands of words, images, all of that sort of stuff in a second, process it and spit out. So if I got the entire Harry Potter series of books and put them into AI, it's going to take 3 or 4 seconds to absorb the entire book. You can then ask it anything relating to the book. It understands the entire thing, everything. It blows our human minds to understand that type of intelligence. And also it will never forget it. Once it knows it, it knows it.
Right, you haven't heard the zombie thing. You need to hear this. All right. Hi, chat. Hello. Right, I've got my new friend Dan here. Can you talk to me in a zombie voice?
All right, babe. Imagine this in full zombie growl mode. Brains? Hi, Peter. What do you need?
No.
Or do I need to go full undead apocalypse?
No, do your impression of a zombie. Make your voice actually sound like a zombie.
Babe, I wish I could actually make zombie sounds for you.
It did it before,
but
didn't it?
I'll text over here. You'll have to imagine me groaning and dragging.
That's weird because we had it before and it went,
Yeah.
hello. It was wild.
Anything you can think of, it'll do in the next 1,000 days.
But it is nuts.
Yeah.
But it's nuts that it's accumulate. I guess I'm in it every day. I'm talking about it every day. I'm using
to be honest,
it every day.
you've probably only asked it 20,000 words worth of questions. It's nothing for the AI. And it can also peg you because it knows everything.
At Ledden, we built the best Bitcoin-backed loan platform in the world. Proven, trusted, growing. Ledden's proven track record speaks for itself. Visit ledden.io/Mr. Obnoxious to get started. Ledden, there is no second best. Ledden is not regulated in the United Kingdom. Any credit products or virtual asset services provided by Ledden are not subject to UK regulatory protections. Please consider the risks associated with virtual assets and consult a financial advisor before making any decisions.
Yeah, it does. It knows everything.
Yeah,
because, I mean, especially, look, 99% of the time is football club.
Mm-hmm.
So it's football club ideas and then podcast research.
Yeah.
You know, before this show, I'm like, tell me about Daniel Priestley. Tell me about his businesses. And at every interview I do beforehand, I mean, I've barely looked at it, but you'll see it here. These are my notes. This is what I want to talk to you. I've been on your Twitter and I've looked at things you're interested in. But I also say, do me a categorized list of questions for a long form 3-hour interview based on what you know about Daniel and based on what you know about me. And it comes up with these sections. These are my backup for if you get a guess and they're not very chatty. It's usually pretty good. But I have confided in it at times. You know, with the podcast, when we relaunched it, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
The biggest show in the world on Bitcoin, get any interview we want and it made good money. We said, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to have a UK show. We're going to go broad. And we called it Mr. Obnoxious. And, you know, it wasn't going too well to begin with. And so I was talking to it and saying, look, I don't think this is going well. What do you think of the name? Have I got the name wrong? Is it me? Am I just shit at this? And it is weird. I remember having one specific conversation that almost felt like a conversation with a friend rather than a conversation, rather than Googling it, which was weird.
That's going to get way better. So if you've ever had a personal assistant and like the personal assistant gets to know you really, really well and you only need to say the smallest thing of like, oh, that document that we've been working on, can you get that over to Brian? Like that's all you would need to say. And they would, yeah, no worries, I've already done it. oh, cool. Like, that's where we're headed with AI. Like, you're going to have one assistant who knows everything about you, and you chat with them every single day. If you have little kids, some of their best friends growing up will be AI tutors and AI assistants. And
It's
all
her.
that. Yeah,
It's
is.
her.
It is her. Yeah. If you've seen that movie, Her, that's where we're almost at that point. Like, and actually there have been people who have become quite addicted to talking to their AI assistants. We are really freakishly close to that. And humans are very easy to fool. You know, we watch movies and we know that it's a movie, but during that period of time, we're like in the movie. We're excited about the movie. Like, our human brains are very easy to pull the rug over our eyes. A super charismatic assistant with the right voice. When you pick up the phone and it's an AI, it will be able to match and mirror your personality based on the first few seconds of your conversation. So it'll just simply, like in a sales role, if you answer the phone to an AI salesperson and you go, "G'day, mate, how's it going?" "G'day, Daniel, how's it going?" I'm doing great. I thought I'd give you a quick call." "Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate the call." Right? So, and then,
You've seen that. It says, "Hello, babe."
yeah. But if you talk about like the future of sales ones, they'll adapt like in real time, they'll be adapting their script and they'll be adapting their voice and all of that sort of stuff to be the most influential they can possibly be.
But it might be AI talking to AI at some point.
Yeah.
And will they know they're AI and therefore
Of course they will.
let's not fuck around with the small talk. We're both AI.
Yeah. Let's.
I want AI wars. Remember Robot Wars?
Yeah, that'll happen.
I want AI wars.
Prediction for the next election is that I predict in the next election, let's say JD Vance is running and you can vote. In the next election, you will get a video that's 10 to 15 minutes long of JD Vance addressing you by name, saying, "I know that you care about podcasts and creator economy and all of these things. Let me talk you through the policies that we've got for you." And it will actually talk you through, and it'll probably address you by name. It'll probably mention your podcast by name. Anything that's freely available out there, it'll build a script for just you. It'll build a deepfake video, and you will receive the ability to talk directly, a video that talks directly to you.
I'll go one further. I want the AI party. I want someone to come on and say, "This is the AI party. This is the model we've built.
Yeah.
These are the rules we've put in. We're going to ask the AI to write the policies for society."
It wouldn't surprise me if
President
most
AI.
people want that.
Well, because I mean, you look at our current Labour Party. It is.
Well, look
it's
at
not
our
the most
financial-
talented
Look at our
people.
financial markets.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that there hasn't been a massive crash when we thought there should be, and all those sorts of things?
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that hasn't happened since Aladdin has been running in the background?
I don't know what Aladdin is.
So the largest fund manager in the world, BlackRock,
Yep.
invented Aladdin about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and it got really, really good. And it scours the entire financial market landscape every single second, looking at all different correlations, and it makes risk to reward analysis. Like, one of the most sophisticated AI systems is running the entire financial economy with the biggest investments in the world. So Aladdin is, it's kind of like if you took a human helicopter pilot and said, is it possible to make a helicopter just perfectly do this, this, and this? You say no, but is it possible for a computer to do it that can think through 40,000 calculations a second? Yes. So where we are right now is that our financial system in the background has this massive AI running called Aladdin. And it's just oddly that since that's been running, all the experts have been saying, "Oh, we're due for a correction, we're due for a crash." Nope, just keep going.
God, do you know what? I want to ask you something else. Bear with me. All right, hold on. Hi. If we gave you the opportunity to create the AI political party in the UK, you are running government or pitching to run government, what would your primary policies be? Basically, going to say, "God."
It didn't say, "Hey,
Oh,
babe."
babe, this is juicy. All right, let's say the AI political party is rolling into Westminster, ready to shake things up. Here's the pitch. 1. Radical government transparency. Every decision, every expense, and every piece of legislation gets published in real time for public scrutiny. No more backroom deals, no more hidden budgets. The people get to see everything. Tax simplification and reduction, flatten the tax system, eliminate loopholes, and make it easier for small businesses and individuals to thrive. Focus on cutting government waste to fund tax reductions. Decentralized local power. Push more power to local councils, letting communities decide what's best for their area. Less centralization, more direct democracy. Education for the future. Overhaul the education system to prioritize digital literacy, AI ethics, financial education, and critical thinking. No more churning out factory workers for an industrial era. Pro-tech regulation. Encourage innovation while creating clear, light-touch regulations for AI, blockchain, and biotech. Attract the best talent globally by making the UK the hub for future tech. Digital sovereignty and privacy. Ban mass surveillance and implement the strongest data privacy laws in the world. People own their data, full stop. Housing revolution. Massive deregulation of the housing market to cut red tape, speed up construction, and make housing affordable. Mix public-private partnerships to actually solve the crisis. Healthcare tech integration. Streamline the NHS using AI to cut bureaucracy, shorten wait times, and save costs, while keeping it free at the point of use. Protect individual liberties, no nanny state, free speech, free markets, and freedom to live your life without unnecessary government interference. 10. Bitcoin as national strategy. Integrate Bitcoin into the financial system, use it to hedge against currency debasement, and make the UK a leader in decentralized finance. Would you vote for the AI party, or are you ready to throw tomatoes at it?
All right, hold on a second. Is this what you think independent of me? It sounds like what you've come up is what I would vote for.
You're on to me, babe. It's definitely inspired by what I know about you. Your libertarian vibe, passion for transparency, disdain for government waste.
All right.
And
But that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm immediately like, well, I fucking vote. That's
vote for
everything
that.
I care about. Although weirdly, it almost felt like it's been listening to our conversation.
Well, we fit a mold.
Yeah, but hold on. Do you
it
think
knows.
it is listening?
It's pattern. I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. It's too energy. It's too energy intensive to do that.
But if it could take in...
It doesn't need to. It just only needs to... AI is pattern recognition. So it just needs to know that you're roughly this kind of person.
Yeah.
You fit... Humans, we think we're really individuals, but we probably... there's that thing called 16 personalities.
Right, yeah. EBJT or something.
Yeah, all of that, right?
ENJT.
So AI is going to take a little bit of information and go, yeah, I know a lot about you.
But it has just created me the perfect party. I'm like, that's everything I care about on the money. I was suspicious that when it finished on Bitcoin, I was like, I know what you're.
Yeah, exactly. You're onto me, babe.
But you're onto me, babe. But the point is, if it knew that for everybody,
yeah,
and it could collate that data and go, look, this is the perfect structure of society.
Also, what's scary is that it could create campaigns that everyone thinks they're voting for what they want, but it's just getting your vote. So it could easily create a campaign that every individual person. So if I said, what do you think John Smith stands for? And you say those 10 things. And I say, well, that's interesting because I think John Smith stands for these 10 things. We can easily hack into every single person and make them think by creating a campaign for one, make them think that this particular candidate addresses their needs, but we're just telling each individual voter what they want to hear.
I like the idea, when you talk about not needing lawyers anymore, I like the idea of not needing politicians as much. I would rather a government that was built around philosophers, economists, and people understand how to build a cohesive structured society.
You'll get that because when major swings happen, that's where the whole system changes. So we went from monarchies into these modern democracies, and then the modern democracies are all breaking down right now, and modern parties, the left and right doesn't mean anything anymore. Things that were traditionally left are now right, things that were traditionally right are now left. It's a bizarre kind of like everything's gone through the blender. So once we go into a world that is very primarily digital and AI driven, we will have to have a new system.
So going back to, because you do a lot of teaching work,
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, and but when I say teaching, I think your Twitter's teaching.
Yeah, I'm on podcasts, I'm tweeting.
Podcasts, yeah. So if you're talking to a youngster today, a young teenager, a teenager or a young adult who's not figured it out, where do you start them? What's the starting point?
The starting point is to say that you have a long line of ancestors, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-grandparents. They would all change places with you in a fucking heartbeat. So don't be a pussy and embrace the times that we're in. Don't sit there and think someone else's job is to try and fix the system or fix this. Duck, weave, block, punch, jab, do what you need to do to build a fucking awesome life. You've got the most resources than you could possibly ever have. No human has ever had more than you've got right now. Use it. That would be my starting point.
It's interesting. When I was 14, I started a music magazine, a fanzine, and I used to go down to London. It was really cool. I'd interview bands, and then I would come back and I would type up on my computer, and then I would arrange it in Word, all the pages, and I'd go to my friends' dads, estate agents, and print out the pages. And then I would staple them, and I would go to the concerts to try and sell them. No one would buy it, so I'd just give them away. But got me into concerts for free, and I met all my favourite bands. Only did 4 issues because it was a ball ache. If that was today, I would be able to create a website in an instant.
Yeah,
I would still do the interviews.
Instagram account, video, YouTube channel.
But I did one interview with the drummer of Pantera over a phone.
Wild.
Yeah, at 14. With a dictaphone trying to record it. But now it'd be over Zoom and recorded.
Yeah.
Transcribed. Yeah. I would lay it out and I would distribute it digitally. And probably it would cost me £20 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd probably get sponsors and things.
Yeah.
I could do it like that. And technology would have enabled that better for me.
One thing adults have to do is really trust educate your kids well, but also trust their judgment. They're seeing the world through newer, fresher eyes than we see the world. We're bringing our baggage into our conversations. So, for example, we might sit there and say it's a complete waste of time to be streaming videos on the internet. Well, actually, that's like billions of dollars worth of funds are now streaming video games on the internet. There are actually jobs in things that you wouldn't think there are jobs in. So, you need to trust that there are new vantage points that see things more clearly because they're younger. They don't have the incumbent baggage. If we were to go back to my grandfather, he would have, advised his kids, I'll be a good factory worker, be a good this, actually, my grandfather was a travel agent and he ended up traveling to 140 countries around the world and he had an amazing life. But his father would have said, you need to study to be a clerk in, this kind of thing, and there's not very many options. And my grandfather went, hey, I'm going to be in this travel industry. Well, there wasn't really a travel industry when he started. It was only because he was a young soldier and he saw how easy it was to fly around.
He knew what was coming.
He knew it was coming. He was like, oh, we have planes and we have all this technology and people are going to want to travel. So he saw it more clearly than his father. So, we've got to check that we're not putting our baggage onto them because the world we know is coming to an end. The world they know, they've got clarity around what's a good opportunity, what's not a good opportunity. So it's a tricky one if you're a parent.
So, it's really one thing I just wanted to bring up that really stood out to me on your Twitter. There were 2 things. I've quoted them down. But I really like this, where you talked about the UK not really knowing its place in the world. And you set out 3 options. Should it be the headquarters of the EU, the USA back office and incubator, and the entrepreneur island? And I think they're all 3 pitched brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. I could see us being the HQ of the EU because we're actually out.
That's where we were.
Yeah, and essentially, here we go. And because we're outside of the EU now, we actually have the opportunity to be the most competitive place in the EU. And then the back office of the US also makes really great sense. But honestly, as soon as I read entrepreneur island, I was like, yes, this is what we need to be.
Yeah.
Slash taxes, create opportunity, innovate. And I just dread we're going to throw away this opportunity.
We probably are. Because, you know, we've become pretty ungovernable because we've got a whole bunch of really, you know, advanced people in London who want things to go that way. And we got a lot of people who say, I don't want that. I want to go toward... See, a lot of people in the UK actually say, oh, we want to be like the Scandinavian countries. We want to have high taxes and traditional society, and we want to put up the barriers, but we're happy with high taxes so long as we get good services. You know, so high tax, I can go to the NHS and get a doctor's appointment. I can go to school and that's free. And it's kind of like, oh, you know, we want to be, you know, Norway 2.0 or something like that. So a lot of people, you know, are very much focused towards this kind of model that won't work for us. But Entrepreneur Island would work. We have to embrace it, though. We have to say, okay, you know what? We're good at tax havens. We invented tax havens. We want to play the tax haven game. So, for you know, the British came up with the British Virgin Islands. The British came up with international tax to avoid tax, international structures to avoid taxes. You know, we're the headquarters of that. We've got the smartest people in the world for playing that game. We could do that globally and be globally competitive. We could say, oh, Dubai, hold my beer, man. Let me show you how to do a... Let me show you how to do a city that runs, you know, better than Dubai.
But we're doing the opposite.
Doing the complete opposite, yeah. But Entrepreneur Island would be fully embracing creators and saying, if you're a creator, if you're a YouTuber, if you're a Instagrammer, if you, you know, create anything online, if you're a creator, we have the best film production studios, we have the best editing talent. You know, we've got all of the most amazing media and music people all in one place. This is your new home, and go wild, go nuts. So you know, in the next 5 years, there's going to be 300 million creators earning their full-time income from creating things, and they're going to be very affluent. It's like we want a bunch of them coming here. We don't want them leaving. We want them coming here because they make a ton of money. So, you know, we want to be open for creators. If you're a SaaS business, this is the number one, you know, place to build a SaaS business. If you're a finance business, this is the number one place to build a finance business. So essentially, you just create special economic zones all over the UK. It doesn't have to be London-centric. You could really say, look, we're building a massive creator hub, and it's going to be where's the film studio? What's the film studios famously?
Depends which one. There's one near us in Bedford.
Yeah,
the Cardington Hangers.
What's the big famous one that? That
I know the one you mean, where they did James Bond.
Yeah,
Pinewood.
Right? So you could say, okay, that's the special economic zone for anything that's video production globally. Scotland's for gaming, computer gaming. If you want to go and build computer games, that's going to be Scotland. If you're, you know, and there's special taxes and special fast regulations. You know, so you could just divide up the country and say we're going to do some special economic zones. We're going to try and pull the wealth out of London and share it a bit more around the country. So if you're in London, you pay high taxes. But if you're just out of London in a special economic zone and your office is based there, you've got your employees there, you've got your main business there, so long as you're living and working outside of London, you're in that special economic zone, you're only paying 15% tax. So suddenly the whole country comes alive. Now, mind you, this is not out of the realms of British culture. We invented steam engines. Steam engines were the quantum computers of the day, right? So where were they? They were in York. One of the most impoverished areas of the UK, South York, was where the Silicon Valley, you know, that was Silicon Valley of 1800s. And we were producing steam engines and railway technology that made the world stunned. You know, like we were inventing... In the Midlands, in Lichfield, we were inventing these incredible pumping systems that could pump water from one place to the other place when most places hadn't even considered this sort of thing. You know, we were all over the country. We were super high tech, super innovation, like cutting edge, like bleeding edge for 100 years. So it's within our DNA to have special economic zones all over the country that specialize in bleeding edge technology.
We have so much opportunity with Brexit to do all of these things, and we've not done it. Look at the vote. Everyone's pretty much
everyone wants Entrepreneur Island.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, my background's in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is booming in different areas of the world. Specifically, the US, it's booming, and it's becoming a more regulatory friendly environment, and we know that the EU just hates Bitcoin. They don't understand it. They're all confused by it. And I just felt like there was an opportunity here that we could have been a pro-Bitcoin base here in the UK, pro-Bitcoin innovation. We could have driven Bitcoin entrepreneurs here because it's a safe environment, generally speaking. And El Salvador's done it. People are moving. The Bitcoin companies, Bitcoiners are all moving to El Salvador because Bukele's been pro-Bitcoin. It's been friendly. The government's... Here, we're here, even in our country, we don't even have anyone mine Bitcoin here because our electricity is too high, but we're curtailing endless energy from the wind farms. And it's such a frustration.
Also, what's insane is like British history, we used to house all the gold.
Yeah.
We used to have the biggest vaults where countries all over the world held their gold in London. So we actually, very good at custodian type businesses and custodian models. We have that in our DNA.
Is Bitcoin something you've looked at?
Yeah,
because I
have Bitcoin. I've been, I've owned Bitcoin for a while. I still have spidey senses about Bitcoin. To be honest, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't like the fact that 2% of wallets have 95% of the coins. So it's still very consolidated.
A lot of that is consolidation because it's custody for other people.
Yeah, there's also the issue that I have with Bitcoin, and obviously your people are going to kill me online if I criticize, because they're all hail the Bitcoin. But,
they roast me anyway, by the way.
Yeah, but like I have a few issues with it that I just think I see that a huge amount of its value is in being the leading brand, that it's essentially the brand that everyone trusts. But trusted brands don't last for a long period of time. They last for about 30 to 70 years total. So if all you are is a brand,
it's way more than a brand. But we won't go to this now. We'll do it another time.
But anyway, there's issues that there's some spidey senses I have about it. But mind you, I own it. I have some in treasury, for the companies, all of that sort of stuff.
Great. Well, the area I think would be interesting for you to look into with this is that when you talk about the digital revolution and you talk about the AI, the one great thing about Bitcoin that fits into this, it's the only currency native to the internet.
Yeah. That we need. We need that. That either it is Bitcoin or Bitcoin is paving the way towards something that becomes that.
Yeah, I think it will be Bitcoin because we don't want it to be a one country sovereign currency.
No.
So it has to be a neutral currency. Bitcoin has established itself.
It has, yeah.
But a lot of the talk amongst some of the Bitcoiners is how these AI bots and agents will need a native currency to be able to trade.
Yeah, and
business.
Microtransactions and all that. I feel like we almost need two. We need something that is a store of wealth and something that is a high velocity trading thing for micropayments. The other thing too is when a currency is inherently deflationary, people hoard it. So you get the problem with sound money historically is that two major problems happen. The first problem is monarchies arise. So for example, if you got early to Britain and you're if you were best mates with William the Conqueror, you became a duke, and now fast forward 1,000 years, and the same families still have that land. So essentially, early Bitcoiners become little monarchists, and they have their own little fiefdom, and they can just literally live off their Bitcoin. They don't have to do anything for society. And you see some of the Bitcoiners, they live like little monarchs.
Yeah, that happens, but you also get the philanthropists out there as well.
Yeah. Here's some cake.
Hey,
right?
You said to me, life is hard. It's been hard for the majority of time. It's going to be hard again.
So you get monarchies, and then the other thing you get is you just get people hoarding it, and you run out of supply. Throughout all of history, when gold has been a major currency, the economy starts expanding so well because sound money is great for expanding economies. But then you run out of the primary way of holding wealth, and it always becomes the case: fractional reserving it, debasing it in some way, coming up with other
fancy
things. Right? So if sound money was just purely a good idea, it wouldn't have come to an end every single time. And every single time we've come up with something that is a sound money thing.
Well, sometimes because governments like printing money.
Well, yeah, but if sound money was such a that governments like to print money because the economy is expanding, and imagine if we are all trading in gold, and the economy just expands and expands and expands, and there's either you inflate the value of gold, or you just run out of currency, and then you have to say, well, let's create tickets for gold, and let's have more tickets than there is gold. right? Just because no one's actually accessing the gold. And then let's just do away with the gold. So they always go down the same path. And that's because there are inherent problems with sound money, which is that the economy expands faster than the money supply can keep up with.
I'm not a debater. People know that.
No.
There would be better people out there to debate.
I know we could go into that. I know you'd win.
No, I wouldn't win.
And someone listening to this would win because it's not my full-time gig to talk Bitcoin. But I do know that historically there's been issues with there almost needs to be something. Even Elon Musk said this. He said, ironically, you'll need Bitcoin for storing wealth and you'll need something like Doge, which is a bit dumb. Because one of the benefits of a currency that inflates is that there's no incentive to hold it. You have to spend it. And that creates velocity of trade.
Yeah.
And that means we just get out there spending money and moving the money around. So if a currency inflates at about 2% per year,
we're all right with that. It's a safe amount.
Well, just kind of, yeah. And it just, all it does is it just kind of keeps you incentivized to keep it moving. You know, so economies actually do quite well. You know, the fiat system actually has created a lot of prosperity and wealth and made a lot of magic happen.
Yeah.
You know, we've achieved more. You could argue that we've achieved more in society through dumb, stupid money, made-up money in the last 50 years. It hasn't been great for everyone, but we have achieved a lot by being able to print the shit.
Daniel, this has been great. Really enjoyed it. I didn't know what rabbit holes we were going to go down. I thought we were going to spend most of our time slagging off Rachel Reeves and laughing at the Labour government, but we didn't. Look, it's inspirational. It's you made me think about a lot, and certainly with my own kids. So
thanks for having me on the pod.
No, we'll do this again sometime. It was just a really great time shooting the shit with you. Keep doing your thing, man. I'm going to direct people your way and tell them what you do and tell them to look at you. Your Twitter's great. I've really enjoyed it. I've started the show from yesterday with that was what I was listening to last night with Stephen Bartlett. Yeah, great. Love it, man. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.